Alright guys, welcome back to another video on the super duper world of sports. And today is top 3 week 2 fantasy performances for full PPR. We're going to be going over the top 3 from every fantasy position. So let's get right into it. We had some really good ones this week. Number 1 at the quarterback position was Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Put up 44.62 fantasy points. Aided very much by his 79-yard touchdown run late in the game. Of course, they choked to the Miami Dolphins. As you can see, Tua Tagovailoa had 38.86 fantasy points, 469 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Just a godly performance from him as well. Just a crazy game. I mean, so much scoring, so many yards, touchdowns. Just a shootout between the Ravens and Dolphins there. And Monday Night Football, the second Monday Night Football game. I don't know why they had a doubleheader on Monday night this week, but whatever happened. So Jalen Hurts, number 3 of the Philadelphia Eagles, had 35.02 fantasy points. Definitely a great performance from him. Had a deep touchdown to Kez Watkins, and they were able to shut the Vikings down almost completely. So Jalen Hurts had his way. Fantasy running backs. Nick Chubb had the most fantasy points for running backs this week. 32.3 fantasy points in their narrow loss to the Jets. That's embarrassing, dude. But yeah, they did lose to the Jets. That's true. Nick Chubb definitely did not suffer from this loss, though, as he led the team in a lot of categories. Aaron Jones at number 2 of the Green Bay Packers, expected breakout. AJ Dillon had most of the work last week, but I think Aaron Jones, we all expected to have kind of an edge in the touches and role. So he had 32 fantasy points, finally got what he wanted. And Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys actually put up 19.8 fantasy points against the Cincinnati Bengals in their win. Still very bittersweet about that, but hopefully we're able to come back next week, dude. If we lose to the Jets, I have no idea what I'm going to do if we lose to the Jets. I'll be very concerned, at least, but if guys like Tony Pollard are going to keep ripping us up, then yeah, it's going to be tough. But back to Tony Pollard, very talented guy. I mean, what a player he is. He should be the starting running back, honestly. Have fantasy wide receivers. Number 1, Stephon Diggs against the Titans on the 7:15 Monday night game. 44.8 fantasy points for him. Had 3 touchdowns. An absolute absurd performance from him, as well as Josh Allen. Just a dominance of the Titans in all aspects, defensively and offensively. Number 2 and number 3 are both Miami Dolphins receivers, which is bizarre. That is very rare. That usually a team can't support 2 receivers with 40 plus fantasy points. This is ridiculous. How insane they did this week. But yeah, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins put up 42 fantasy points. Had I think 190 yards on 11 receptions for 2 touchdowns, including a deep one, and that got him back into the contest. And number 3, his teammate Jalen Waddle put up 40.1 fantasy points. Did just as good, had 19 less yards, but that does not undermine how unbelievable both of them did. I mean, I can go on forever about how great they did. But gotta make the video short, so just gonna appreciate the Miami Dolphins comeback. They've got a really good thing going. I think they can put up a fighting shot. They can put up a real good fight against the Buffalo Bills next week. And fantasy tight ends, Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens had 25.7 fantasy points. Of course, he got in the end zone as well during the Dolphins game. Number 2, Darren Waller of the Las Vegas Raiders, He put up 17 fantasy points against the Cardinals. Had plenty of opportunities. We didn't see too much of him in the first week. I think he had 11 fantasy points. This week he had almost 20, he almost had 17 fantasy points. So definitely a bounce back from him. And Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals, who played the aforementioned Las Vegas Raiders, at number 3, had 15.5 fantasy points. I think he had a touchdown as well. Definitely boosted it. But a great performance overall from him as well. So, moving on to the fantasy kickers now. Graham Gano of the New York Giants, in their second win of the season, they're now 2-0 actually, which is, at least to me, very surprising. They have beat the Panthers, and Graham Gano put up 17 fantasy points in this game. Had a lot of opportunities to kick the ball. Giants could not necessarily capitalize on every touchdown opportunity as they usually do. As they usually don't. So Graham Gano was able to get a lot of kicks in there. Daniel Carlson, kind of the same situation. He had 4 field goals and an extra point, I believe. 29. Yeah, that equates to something like that. I'm not going to sit and do the math right now. 13 fantasy points for him. And tied for third place, we have another tie for third place. This time it's a 2-way tie. Brett Maher of the Dallas Cowboys and Brandon McManus, again, of the Denver Broncos. Both put up 12 fantasy points. Brett Maher, of course, in their win against the Bengals, kicked the game-winning field goal. And Brandon McManus, not necessarily the game-winning field goal, but against the Texans, they did win that game, 16-9. So he did make 3 field goals. So pretty good performance from both of them. And last but not least, the fantasy DST's defense special teams. Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the most points for defense special teams I have seen in all the years I've been playing fantasy. I mean, what a they shut down the Saints completely. I mean, wow. That was tough. 32 fantasy points for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Just dominated in all aspects. Number 2 is a real surprise to me. Jacksonville Jaguars, with 21 fantasy points. They shut out the Colts. 0 points allowed to the Colts. And, I mean, it shows, man. The Colts play bad against the bad teams, and they dominate the good teams. Just explain to me how that works. I have no idea. Buffalo Bills at number 3 had 20 fantasy points, pretty close to the second place there. Of course, we talked about how they obliterated the Titans 41-7. Only let up a touchdown. Got multiple interceptions. Definitely a dominant performance from them as well. Yeah, and that's it, guys. That's it for Week 2 fantasy performances. We'll be back with Week 3 fantasy performances. You can expect Week 3 power rankings tomorrow afternoon or evening probably. So yeah, that's the schedule, guys. Have a great one. See you all in the next one.